Hi, Buzz Allen here for the Propaganda Game, and this is the fourth video in the series looking at the various techniques in the sections in the Propaganda Game itself. Today we're going to be dealing with techniques of exploitation. There are 10 techniques in the section D, the exploitation section. First one is an appeal to pity, an appeal to flattery, an appeal to ridicule, appeals to prestige, an appeal to prejudice, a bargain appeal, a folksy appeal, join the bandwagon appeal, appeal to practical consequences, and finally passing from the acceptable to the dubious. In an appeal to pity, an attempt is made to secure our commitment by presenting an object of commitment that engenders sympathy on our part, arousing sympathetic feelings to the point where these feelings hopefully will determine a favorable action, usually making a donation or a contribution. St. Jude's Hospital has made an entire campaign year after year using appeals to pity. We see the picture of the young child suffering from cancer and obviously undergoing chemotherapy, having lost their hair. The imploring, help him live, please make a donation to the hospital. This is obviously a worthy cause, and in many worthy causes, appeals of this type are made. Nonetheless, this is certainly a classic appeal to pity. Appeals to flattery are an attempt to persuade us to buy or believe by flattering us on our personal appearance or in some other category that we believe we excel or would like to excel. Courtship situation. The young man says, "You are so smart. You're the most beautiful girl in the school, and you make it look easy. And the insights you come up with, whoa, I'm in awe. Hey, would you like to go get some ice cream with me after class today?" She's smiling. He must have said something she found flattering. What do you think? Will she take him up on it? Third kind of technique is an appeal to ridicule. An appeal to ridicule is an attempt to influence us to accept a certain proposition by making fun of those who oppose the proposition. What? Are you chicken? You're one of those do-gooders, huh? So obvious attempt here at applying peer pressure to get somebody to try their first cigarette by making fun of them and making them feel like if they don't accept this proposal, they're going to show that they're uncool and a coward. In an appeal to prestige, an attempt is made to induce you to buy or believe in something by suggesting that such an action will secure or increase prestige for you. Now, appeals to prestige are very similar to status, although there's a very important difference. In a status technique, if a person who possesses status is endorsing a product, they're just saying they believe, so you should too. There's no implication that by buying or using that product, you will get an equivalent increase in your status. Whereas an appeal to prestige suggests that you should buy or believe precisely because by doing so, you will acquire or improve your own status. Dos Equis Beer ran a whole campaign called "The Most Interesting Man in the World." Here he is, perched at a bar, arms around two lovely ladies. Some people know more than you do. Listen to those people. Stay thirsty, my friend. This ad is a very unabashed appeal to prestige, and we're asked to buy the proposition that by drinking Dos Equis beer in large quantities to quench that enduring friendly thirst, this will produce such a debonair and distinguished persona that even a gray-haired gentleman can expect to mesmerize two hot ladies at once. In an appeal to prejudice, the one who makes the appeal is attempting to persuade you to act or feel a certain way by associating his pitch or product or proposal with one or more of your prejudices, positive or negative. And remember that a prejudice is an emotional bias or prejudgment having a history. And not only does an appeal to prejudice rekindle your prejudice, but it also is an attempt to arouse in you warm feelings towards the person who's apparently is sharing your prejudice, and that in the hope that that will make it easier for you to believe or buy what is being offered. Here we see in this ad a obviously terrified young woman driving, and the pitch at the bottom says the mini automatic for simple driving. And the implication here is an obvious appeal to prejudice against women drivers, implying that they are simple and scared, therefore an automatic transmission is just a godsend. A bargain appeal is an attempt to get you to buy by appealing to your desire to save money. And if you do buy without making your own comparison as to price and quality and service, then this technique is successful. But wait, there's more! That's right, you can get 2 giant boxes of ultra-pure, snowy white baking soda for the price of 1. And then we'll double it. That's right, you heard me. 4 giant boxes for the price of 1. An unbelievable value. We're losing money selling it at this price, so the offer is good for a limited time only. Call today. Don't let it slip away. Of course, classic appeal to bargain appeal. Who could resist but to buy 10 of these deals and have a lifetime supply of this incredibly worthy product? In a folksy appeal, the user is placing himself or his product on a level of neighborly intimacy with the reader or listener. It combines elements of appearance and manner, but in an attempt to fit in with whomever the appeal is being made to. Those of you that watch old TV shows may have seen reruns of the Beverly Hillbillies, story of a group of hillbillies who struck it rich in oil and moved into a Beverly Hills mansion. The sign-off for this show every week showed the whole family waving to the audience saying, "Y'all come back now, you hear?" So classic appeal dripping with folksy appeal. A join the bandwagon appeal is an effort to influence you to act in a certain way by implying or asserting that this is what everybody's doing, and so you should join the bandwagon and do what everyone else is doing in order to be popular. The most trusted name in news. It's the most trusted because the most number of people trust it, so you should too. The appeal to practical consequences is an effort to persuade us to buy or believe by appealing to our concern for our own individual welfare. In other words, if we do what we're being asked, then we will secure certain benefits, or if we refuse to do what we're being asked, we'll have harmful consequences. This becomes a technique, particularly when the consequences that are being described are either fanciful or arbitrary. Every parent has probably used this technique at one time or another as a means of inspiring children to do things, particularly their chores or whatever we want them to do. Here we see a picture of the young girl engrossed in her tablet, toys strewn all over the floor, father standing there saying, "Your mother is going to be furious. Clean up this mess, young lady, or I'll take these away from you." So a clear appeal to practical consequences. She better pick up the toys or her mother's going to pitch a hissy fit and her dad's going to take them away. And even though many of us have used these kinds of threats to try and get behavior that we want from our children, the truth is this is not a particularly effective way to use an appeal to practical consequences. The reason she's ignoring it is that it's a little bit like crying wolf. That the arbitrary consequences are not really the real reason that she should keep the area of the family common areas clean. If the father had approached her and said, "Honey, when you leave your toys all over the floor, if mom comes home, she could step on one and injure herself or break the toy. And that's why for the areas that we all use, it's really considerate to pick them up and put them away. Come on, I'll help you." Now, I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking that's not as effective as the threat. The only problem with using an appeal to practical consequences in a manipulative way is it tends to breed resentment, and it also, people get immune to the bombastic appeals and tend to ignore them. Whereas when the actual consequences that are described are real, then there's a higher chance that someone will actually acquire some of the responsible attitudes that we all hope people will grow up to have. Passing from the acceptable to the dubious involves an arguer who states a whole series of propositions and structures it so that the early ones are readily acceptable to the audience, but that the concluding statements could be really far out there and dubious. The listener is expected to blindly accept those dubious ones because it was easy to accept the earlier propositions that were reasonable. Ann Coulter is a conservative author and commentator. Here she was quoted as saying, "Liberals never ever drop a heinous idea, they just change the name. Abortion becomes choice. Communist becomes progressive. Communist dictatorship becomes People's Democratic Republic. And Nikita Khrushchev becomes Barack Obama." Now, the first assertion of equating abortion with choice is reasonable, given that that's a common slogan that was chosen by abortion advocates, in the same way that anti-abortion people often characterize their movement as pro-life. However, equating communists with progressives is a little further out there. A communist dictatorship, certainly not a People's Democratic Republic. And equating Nikita Khrushchev with Barack Obama is actually completely repugnant. So this is clearly moving from the acceptable to the dubious. And Ms. Coulter is certainly aware that she is putting a maneuver on all of us by doing so. Not all statements discussing probable consequences are, in fact, a propaganda technique. Take, for example, the following statement. If global warming is happening and causes rising sea levels with increasingly severe storms, then we can expect increased flooding and damage in coastal areas. This conclusion is entirely reasonable based on the assumptions. And this is actually a description of actual consequences that would come, assuming that the conditions that are assumed actually come and happen. This would be a case of no technique. So this completes the techniques of exploitation. The next video will deal with techniques of form.